Have you ever paused to consider the untold stories interwoven with the well-known narratives of fallen angels? Beyond the celestial beings themselves, what became of the women they chose as wives? A hidden history, a saga of profound love, devastating betrayal, and unimaginable suffering lies dormant, waiting to be unearthed. These women, the wives of the fallen angels, were unwittingly thrust into a cosmic war, a conflict between the heavens and the most potent entities in existence, a battle they never sought to wage. Then Uriel, the angel of God, a being whose very gaze could ignite the celestial spheres, materialized not as a beacon of compassion, but as an embodiment of divine judgment. What fate awaited these women in his presence? Did he condemn them to eternal punishment, or did he unveil a revelation, a truth that transcended mortal comprehension? Journey with me as we delve into this forgotten chapter and prepare to have your understanding of heaven angels and the very essence of justice irrevocably transformed. If you are captivated by the enigmatic mysteries veiled within the sacred texts, then stay with us. Like, subscribe, and activate the notification bell to unlock a treasure trove of untold narratives right here on Bible Mysteries. Chapter 1. The Genesis of a World Adrift. In the primordial age, long before humanity grasped the full weight of transgression, before the great flood reshaped the very face of the earth, there existed a delicate equilibrium, a time when the realms of heaven and earth were separated by only a thin veil. During this era, celestial beings radiant and awe-inspiring cast their gaze upon the daughters of men, their hearts stirring with forbidden desire. These were the Watchers angels, of formidable power, their wings capable of eclipsing entire skies, their voices resonating like thunder across vast landscapes. Entrusted with the sacred duty of guiding, observing, and safeguarding humanity, they instead succumbed to earthly temptations, betraying their divine mandate. Their fall ushered in an era of beauty terror and a pervasive corruption that ensnared every mortal soul. The wives of the fallen angels were in their origins ordinary women, the daughters of men who lived simple lives filled with laughter and hardship. Their mundane existence would shatter irrevocably the moment the Watchers descended from the heavens. It began subtly with whispers carried on the night winds, promises of unparalleled power and unwavering love, a touch that resonated with the warmth of the sun itself. Against such a lure, no mortal could withstand. From these unions arose a race unlike any other, the Nephilim, colossal giants, who dwarfed mountains, whose footsteps reverberated through the earth, whose voices commanded fear and reverence. They were the tangible manifestation of divine rebellion, and their existence heralded an era of unprecedented destruction. Villages were consumed by flames, rivers flowed crimson with blood, and humanity trembled under the shadow of a world spiraling into utter chaos. The anguished cries of humanity ascended to the heavens, but mingled with them were the silent screams of the women themselves, their fear, their inconsolable grief, their utter despair. They were not culpable in the rebellion. They had merely loved, and now they were trapped within a nightmare from which there seemed no escape. It was at this pivotal moment that the very fabric of the sky ruptured. A blinding column of pure light cleaved the heavens, transforming night into day. A deafening thunder shook the foundations of the mountains, rivers recoiled in terror, and the earth trembled beneath its own fear. From this radiant brilliance emerged Uriel, the flame of God, whose very presence embodied judgment, mercy, and the profound weight of eternity. His wings, vast as storm clouds, shimmered with an ethereal light that pierced the darkness engulfing the world. His eyes burned with a truth so absolute that no mortal could dare to meet his gaze. Every creature that drew breath was paralyzed by a potent mixture of terror and awe. The giant's progeny of the Watchers froze mid-stride, their thunderous roars silenced by the overwhelming magnitude of the divine presence. The wives of the fallen angels clung to each other, their hearts pounding against their ribs, their breaths shallow and ragged. Could this celestial being, this emissary of God, obliterate them all with a single gesture? Could heaven truly condemn the innocent for the transgressions of their husbands? For an eternal moment, Uriel remained silent. He simply surveyed the ravaged world before him, the shattered cities, the weeping women, the towering Nephilim, now reduced to mere monstrous figures. The weight of heaven itself seemed to bear down upon the earth, threatening to crush it entirely. Then his voice shattered the profound silence. This world has been tainted not by your hand, but by those who dared to defy the Almighty. The women trembled, a flicker of relief intermingling with their lingering terror. They were not the architects of rebellion, yet they had been forced to endure its devastating consequences, powerless to halt its relentless march. Your offspring, these giants, are beyond the reach of redemption. Uriel continued, his voice a paradox, both a deafening roar and a gentle whisper. They shall not survive the coming judgment. A profound hush descended upon the land. Even the mountains seemed to strain to listen, as if understanding the gravity of his words. The wives of the fallen angels had loved their children with the ferocity of a human heart. Yet the inescapable truth stood before them: the very beings they had birthed were destined for annihilation. From the ranks of the giants came faint whispers, a low chilling murmuring, as they sensed the divine judgment descending upon them. "Father, Mother, what is happening to us?" one of the giants rumbled, fear edging his monstrous voice. But their mothers could offer no solace, no explanation. Their love, their guidance, their desperate prayers were all rendered powerless against the unyielding will of heaven. Uriel's gaze swept across the wives once more, this time softer, imbued with a profound sorrow. "You shall not be destroyed. You are not to blame for the sins committed, but you shall bear witness for the sake of humanity, for the warning of all who follow." The angel raised his hand, and a radiant shield of light enveloped the women, protecting them from the chaos erupting around them. The raging fires that consumed entire cities could not touch them. The fury of the giants, the unrestrained chaos of rebellion, were all held at bay by this divine protection. Yet even within the sanctuary of the shield, their hearts shattered into a million pieces. They were alive, yes, but their husbands languished in the abyss, their children were doomed to perish, and the world around them convulsed under the crushing weight of heaven's wrath. Some of the women screamed in anguish, some wailed in inconsolable grief, while others fell silent, their eyes fixed on the distant horizon as Uriel prepared to deliver the final irrevocable judgment. And in that eerie silence, even the very air seemed to tremble in anticipation. Could humanity possibly survive the coming storm? Could these women endure the profound grief and terror that heaven had permitted them to witness? This was merely the opening chapter. The coming hours would reveal not only the magnitude of divine judgment, but also a profound test of faith, of human endurance, of the fragile human spirit caught between the irresistible forces of divine wrath and unwavering mercy. The stage was set. The players trembled in their designated roles, and Uriel, the angel of fire and justice, was poised to deliver a story that would forever be etched into the annals of time. Chapter 2. The Descent of Uriel's Judgment. The air crackled with an almost palpable anticipation. Even the wind seemed to stifle its breath as Uriel's immense wings beat slowly, deliberately, each deliberate stroke sending ripples of energy across the mountains and valleys. Every creature below human, giant, and beast alike felt the crushing weight of his presence, the impossible gravity of divine authority pressing down upon the world. The wives of the fallen angels huddled together on a desolate rocky plateau, their faces pale and drawn, their eyes wide with a disorienting mix of fear, fragile hope, and utter disbelief. They were alive, shielded by a barrier of pure incandescent light. Yet their hearts throbbed with a sorrow so profound that it eclipsed any earthly pain. Their husbands had been imprisoned, bound in chains forged from molten fire, and dragged screaming into the bottomless abyss. Their children, the Nephilim, now roamed freely, blissfully, unaware of the impending cataclysm about to engulf them. Uriel turned his radiant gaze towards the horizon, and the giants instinctively froze, sensing a power far exceeding their own. The ground shuddered beneath their enormous feet, a rumbling warning loud enough to make even the most fearless hearts waver. "Do you hear it, Mother?" One of the giants boomed in confusion, his voice echoing like the rumble of rolling boulders. "The heavens, they are enraged." The women pressed their trembling hands to their mouths, unable to muster a response. How could they possibly explain to their children, these creatures who had ravaged villages and spread terror, that the punishment was imminent? And then Uriel moved. He descended like a celestial comet, a blazing spectacle of divine fire, impacting the plateau with a shockwave that shattered stone and sent the tallest trees bowing in subservience. His eyes radiated with an inner light, and within that incandescent glow, the wives saw not hatred, but an unflinching, terrible justice. "Adi, you were brought into existence through rebellion." Uriel proclaimed, his voice slicing through the air like lightning. "And now you shall witness the consequences of what has been sown." The giants roared in defiance, their voices resonating across the valleys and echoing through the mountains. "We did not ask for this," one of them cried out. "We are not sinners. We are your children." Uriel's piercing eyes swept over them, and the air shimmered with raw divine energy. "Offspring of defiance, you have forsaken mercy. Now you shall know justice," he intoned, with unwavering resolve. Bolts of celestial fire erupted from his outstretched hands, not to obliterate the women. Heaven would not touch them, but to encircle the giants, to bind them in chains that burned with a holy light. Their desperate struggles sent tremors reverberating across the earth, yet nothing could breach the immutable force of Uriel's judgment. The women watched, paralyzed by a horrifying mixture of awe and dread. Some screamed in abject terror, some fell to their knees and wept, while others prayed fervently for a miracle. One courageous soul, a woman named Kella, defying her fear, shouted to her children, "Listen, listen to him. You must understand, this is not your fault, but this world is not ours to destroy." But even as she spoke, the giants raged on, untamed and wild, their grief morphing into unbridled fury. Uriel, patient as eternity itself, raised his hand once more. From it emanated a sound like the roar of 1,000 seas crashing against the shore. powerful waves of divine command that struck the giants to their knees. And then, in a voice that caused even the heavens to tremble, he spoke, "You shall not rise again until your purpose has been weighed and judged. Your mothers, your women shall be spared, yet they shall forever bear witness to this hour." The women clung to each other for support as the ground beneath the giants cracked and split, a deep chasm opening like the gaping maw of the earth itself. The Nephilim cried out, their voices no longer filled with defiance, but with raw primal terror. Uriel turned back to face the wives, and in that fleeting moment, the weight of heaven seemed almost tender. "You are spared," he said softly, yet the sheer power residing within his voice served as a constant reminder that mercy was never freely given. "But the world you once knew is gone. You will bear witness to the dawn of judgment. You will carry the memory of these sins, and in that burden, you will discover your purpose." The women, their bodies trembling uncontrollably, bowed their heads in submission. Tears streamed freely down their faces, tears shed for their lost husbands, for their monstrous children, for the utter destruction that had touched every corner of the world. And yet, amidst that overwhelming grief, a tiny spark of hope flickered to life. Heaven had not completely forsaken them. They were still alive, still human, still capable of witnessing the divine. As the first tentative rays of sunlight pierced through the dark and foreboding clouds, the wives of the fallen angels gazed across the ruined land. Fires still burned fiercely in the distance, but the protective shield of Uriel's mercy held them safe and protected. The stage was now set for the coming flood. The world would be cleansed of its impurities. Humanity, fragile and terrified, would somehow endure. And the women, forever scarred, yet alive, would carry forth the story of angels' rebellion and divine judgment, a story that would resonate throughout eternity. But even in their survival, the devastating truth remained undeniable. The crushing weight of heaven's justice had left an indelible mark upon their hearts, a mark that no human or angel could ever erase. Chapter 3. The Survivors of Judgment. The sky presented an endless expanse of muted grays and shimmering golds, a war-torn masterpiece painted by the hand of heaven itself. The great flood was imminent, rivers swelling into unstoppable torrents, and the howling winds carrying the mournful cries of 1,000,000 lost souls. Amidst this chaotic tableau, the wives of the fallen angels stood precariously upon the cliffs of a shattered world. Their bodies trembled not from the chilling cold, but from the sheer weight of all that they had witnessed, their husbands bound in chains of divine fire, humanity cowering beneath the impending judgment of God. Yet Uriel remained steadfastly with them, his magnificent wings as vast as the night sky, forming a protective dome of shimmering ethereal light. The women felt his presence both as a shield against harm and as an unwavering guide, a constant reminder that heaven's mercy, although rare, could still extend to embrace the innocent. "You are alive," Uriel declared, his voice cutting through the tempestuous storm like a sword tempered in the fires of eternity. But your survival is not merely a gift to be received. It is an immense responsibility that you must now bear. The women's hearts ached with an unbearable sorrow. Responsibility for what? For the sins of angels, for children who had devolved into monstrous beings, for a world already crumbling beneath the crushing weight of divine wrath. Uriel lowered his luminous gaze to meet theirs, his eyes softening, almost appearing human in their shared sorrow. "You are the living witnesses. You shall carry within you the memory of all that has transpired, the rebellion, the ensuing judgment, and the elusive mercy that has been extended. Your pain is proof that God still sees even the broken. A violent tremor shuddered through the earth as an enormous wave of water rapidly approached the cliffs. The women instinctively clutched one another, a potent mix of terror and awe colliding within their souls. But the protective light emanating from Uriel remained unbroken, an unwavering dome of divine fire and unwavering grace. One of the wives, her voice trembling with fear, finally found the courage to speak. What of our children? What of our husbands? Will they ever be granted release? Uriel's expression remained unreadable, inscrutable, yet his voice carried a weight that settled deep within their hearts. The Watchers are now eternally bound. The Nephilim have ceased to exist. Their rebellion cannot be undone, it is immutable. But you will endure, and from your enduring strength, hope shall rise once again. The women fell silent, their eyes transfixed on the relentlessly approaching flood. Some wept openly, their bodies racked with sobs. Some screamed into the howling winds, their voices lost in the storm. Others whispered prayers they did not even know how to articulate. And yet in that profound silence, a seed of understanding began to take root within their souls. They were alive, spared not solely because of their perceived innocence, but because heaven had a distinct purpose for them. Amidst the raging storm, Uriel raised his hands towards the heavens. From his open palms, a cascade of brilliant divine light shot skyward, momentarily parting the storm clouds, just enough for the women to glimpse a vision of what could be humanity managing to survive life, slowly returning to the devastated world, the earth gradually healing from the horrific scars of rebellion. "This is your sacred task," Uriel declared. "You remember. Bear witness, endure, and carry the unvarnished truth to the generations that are yet to come." As the first wave of the flood surged forward, engulfing everything in its path, the women were swept from the cliffs, but were miraculously carried safely within the protective embrace of Uriel's unwavering light. Their physical bodies were spared from harm, but their hearts now bore the enduring memory of every tear shed, every anguished scream, every monstrous child, and every lost glimmer of hope. When the floodwaters finally receded, the women emerged from the devastation forever irrevocably changed. Their eyes now held the profound weight of heaven, their souls permanently marked by all that they had been forced to witness. They would become the chroniclers, the storytellers, the bearers of truth, the hidden witnesses of the epic war between angels and humanity. And Uriel, the silent and magnificent observer, stood watch over them, a constant reminder that even in the midst of divine judgment, mercy somehow still manages to exist. "The world has been cleansed," he whispered into the wind, his voice barely audible, "but its memory must never be forgotten." And so the wives of the fallen angels survived, forever scarred, yet alive, as witnesses to the greatest rebellion the world had ever known. They carried with them the timeless story of divine wrath, angelic betrayal, and the boundless mercy that had somehow found them even in the heart of the storm. Theirs was an eternal tale of loss, of enduring survival, and of the unwavering truth that heaven sees even those souls trapped between the looming shadows of sin and the guiding light of unwavering justice. The story of Uriel and the wives of the fallen angels is not merely a recounting of punishment or survival. It is a profound reflection on the inherent complexity of justice, mercy, and the pervasiveness of human suffering within a world irrevocably intertwined with the divine. Uriel did not choose to destroy them. He did not punish those who were deemed innocent, but he reminded them and reminds us still that even in the darkest depths of judgment, a greater purpose can always be found. Even when the devastating consequences of sin sweep relentlessly across countless generations, mercy against all odds still endures. Consider the extraordinary circumstances in which these women found themselves caught between the impossible choices made by powerful beings and the unwavering decree of heaven itself. These women did not ask to stand at the intersection of heaven's rebellion and humanity's suffering, yet history placed them there. They became living proof that innocence can still be wounded by decisions it never made. Their lives unfolded in the long shadow of divine judgment, carrying memories too heavy for ordinary hearts. Memories of love that crossed forbidden boundaries, of children born powerful yet doomed of mercy that spared their bodies but marked their souls forever. They would walk among humanity again, outwardly indistinguishable yet inwardly altered. When others spoke of angels with wonder, they remembered terror. When people longed for divine encounters, they remembered the cost. And when humanity rebuilt after the flood planting seeds into cleansed soil, these women understood that restoration is never simple. It is layered with grief loss and lessons written in pain. Uriel did not remain visibly at their side forever. Angels rarely do. But his words stayed with them, echoing through generations. Like a quiet warning power without obedience, corrupts love without boundaries, destroys, and mercy does not erase consequences, it carries us through them. Their story was not written in stone tablets or royal chronicles, but woven into whispered memories, into the instincts of mothers, into the cautionary tales passed down when the world grew too confident. And perhaps that is why their story feels unfamiliar. Some truths are too heavy to sit comfortably in doctrine. Some narratives are preserved not in scripture, but in silence, waiting for those willing to listen beyond the surface. The wives of the fallen angels remind us that God's justice is vast, His mercy selective, and His purposes far deeper than comfort alone. If this hidden chapter stirred your spirit, challenged your understanding, or made you see biblical history through a new lens, then you are exactly where you're meant to be. Like this video to support uncovering the Bible's forgotten and mysterious stories. Comment below with your thoughts. Do you believe mercy can coexist with such judgment? Follow and subscribe to the Bible Mysteries for more untold accounts of angels, ancient wars, and divine truths hidden in the shadows of Scripture. Some stories are not meant to be easy. They are meant to awaken discernment.